The separation of church and state has recently received a great deal of attention due to the tragedy that is the overturning of Roe v. Wade. The separation of church and state is most certainly a good thing. Religion is almost always irrational, oppressive, and dumb. It should have no place in government. The government should be founded on rationality, not religious irrationality. The simple fact of the matter is that so long as a large portion of the population is religious, you cannot have separation of church and state. Regardless of how desirable the separation of church and state may be, it will not happen when you have a largely religious population. Religion will inevitably end up informing law in some way or another. Religion is after all a belief in the divine. If you believe your moral claims are objective truth that is backed by an omnipotent, omniscient God, then why would you not want to influence the government with those claims? Religion is literally an all-encompassing and divine philosophical and moral system which claims to have ultimate authority. Obviously, it is going to have political influence. People telling people to keep their religion out of politics is akin to trying to convince a bald man that he has a head of hair. Good luck. It reminds me of the people who say don't push your moral views on me. So long as people have moral views, they will force them upon one another. If you think something is evil, obviously you are going to try to stop it, regardless of what other people think. These people literally think God and His word is the ultimate authority. They are not going to keep their moral views out of government just because you told them to. They literally think they have divine backing. They are not going to listen to you. That is never going to happen. Trying to make them less religious, and ideally not religious at all, is far more productive. You are far more likely to be successful. Why would people who literally believe their moral views are divine and that they are backed by God listen to you telling them to keep their views separate from the state? No, they would not listen. So long as religious people exist in great numbers, their moronic views will have a place in government. They shouldn't, but so long as they exist, they will, in one way or another. You can't have people who literally believe their morals come from God and that they have divine backing, without those people trying to find a place for those morals in government. To expect people who think that their views are literally backed by the most powerful being in existence to listen to you, telling them to put those views aside, is beyond idiotic. Why would they? If you believe something is objectively wrong and you have God's backing, then obviously you are going to attempt to influence the government of your society with that belief. So long as religion exists on a sizable scale, it will have a political influence in some way or another. When we think about religion influencing the state, we should stop picturing a state with an official state religion. That is the most extreme fringe example. The common reality is millions and millions of voters voting based off of religious beliefs. The common reality is powerful political figures with religious motivations. Both of these less overt forms of religious influence on the state are basically inevitable so long as religion exists. Religion in politics doesn't necessarily mean the Bible is your law book. The reality is often far less direct and more hidden. Someone has political beliefs that are informed by religion. They try to influence the government with those beliefs, and don't even think of it as religion influencing the government. In reality, that is exactly what it is. And it is in ways like this that religion most often influences the state. Abolishing irrational forms of religious belief, that means most religious belief, is really the only solution, and the only way of achieving a separation between the church and the state. Separation is basically impossible. Or perhaps we shouldn't call it separation at all. Perhaps we should just call it the abolition of the church. We need to slowly do away with religion. If we want the separation of church and state, there is really no other way. So long as a good chunk of the population is religious, you can kiss the separation of church and state goodbye. It will remain a fantasy forever. Religion will have its influence in one way or another, overtly or covertly, openly or secretively. Religion will find a way. So long as it maintains a strong existence, you cannot keep such an extreme, irrational, zealous, and all-encompassing force out of the halls of government. Religion is in a sense the ultimate form of government, the divine highest form of government, the ultimate sovereign. It will naturally attempt to put all other forms of government beneath it on the hierarchy. It will naturally attempt to dominate all other forms of government in one way or another. There is also some hypocrisy to be noted here. People do not normally complain about the separation of church and state when religion is informing political changes that they agree with. There are politicians who have claimed to interpret Christianity in a way that justifies abortion and gay marriage. People do not complain about the separation of church and state when these people make such claims and openly express the religious foundation of their political positions. I can imagine someone eagerly responding to my point here by claiming that the difference is that there are non-religious reasons to support gay marriage and abortion, but no non-religious reasons to oppose these things. This is deeply false. There are plenty of secular arguments against gay marriage and abortion. Most, if not all of those arguments are horrible, but they still exist. Personally, I prefer people believing good things for stupid religious reasons over people believing bad things for stupid religious reasons. But both of these things are an example of the separation of church and state being corroded, and people like to conveniently forget that. Ideally, nobody should support anything for irrational religious reasons. While I would prefer that someone supports gay marriage for irrational religious reasons, rather than oppose gay marriage for irrational religious reasons, the ideal is someone supporting gay marriage for good rational reasons. There are no good rational reasons to oppose gay marriage. Rationality works far better as a functioning compass that points towards good political positions than religion ever will. For the most part, people only care about the separation of church and state when it is something they disagree with. This is unfortunate. People should support the separation of church and state in both the case of a religion-inspired supporter of gay rights and religion-inspired enemy of gay rights. Obviously, support for the separation of church and state can be and should be more aggressive in the case of more harmful religious beliefs, but it should have some presence in both cases. Personally, I think believing good things for irrational religious reasons is bad. It is better than believing in bad things for irrational religious reasons, but it is hardly great. We should support good things for rational reasons. Religion inspires people to support good things and bad things for irrational, incoherent, incomprehensible, and entirely indefensible reasons. For the most part, religion will necessarily influence politics. So long as it exists, this is an inevitability. Perhaps there are a few fringe exceptions. Controlled rational religious belief, for example, can be compatible with the separation of church and state. But almost nobody practices rational religious belief. Perhaps incredibly weak and watered-down religious belief can be compatible with the separation of church and state. But religious belief is very nearly almost inherently strong and all-consuming. If you want to know what I mean by rational religious belief, there is a video link in the description. Maybe we can completely reinvent religion so that it doesn't influence the state. Perhaps I am wrong, perhaps religion is compatible with the separation of church and state. Perhaps a divine philosophical and moral system that claims ultimate authority can exist without influencing government. I really do doubt it, but perhaps I am wrong. I am not optimistic about such things. That concludes my thoughts on the separation of church and state. I hope you have a good day.